Welcome back to Star or Shovelware, my name's Luke, and in today's review we're going to be taking a look at Rainbow Laser Disco Dungeon on the Nintendo Switch, a psychedelic twin-stick shooter in which you play as a disco diva tasked with rescuing Earth's greatest musicologist, Dr. Dysco, from the clutches of music-hating robots from another dimension. It's part rhythm game, part dungeon crawler, and it has some awesome tunes to boot. So let's get into this review and take a look here, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content and want to see more. So the story in this one is kept pretty simple, and with a nod to the classic, the game is set in the year 2084 on an Earth ruled by evil robots from an alternative dimension. All music and dancing is strictly forbidden on pain of death, but an underground group of disco lovers led by master musicologist Dr. Dysco have discovered that music can actually be used to destroy the robots. Unfortunately, Dr. Dysco is snatched away to the robot's dungeon before he's able to create his ultimate weapon, the Rainbow Laser, and so now it falls to you to go and rescue him. That's about it though for storyline. Nothing else is mentioned, and it's a simple setup for an arcade game, which works well to set the scene for us. Now, before we get into the gameplay, I will warn you that this game has plenty of flashing imagery, which I'm going to now show briefly, so avert your eyes lest your retinas be detached from them, or of course if you have some kind of photosensitive epilepsy. It's safe to open them now, and the footage you're going to be watching for the rest of the video is with the reduced flashing imagery setting active, so we should all be good from now on. Now, the gameplay in this one is relatively easy to grasp. It's essentially a classic twin-stick shooter setup mixed with rhythm-based elements, and it very much feels like a modern-day Robotron 2084 mixed with something like Crypt of the Necro Dancer. The game takes you through a bit of a tutorial to start with to show you the ropes, but even without this, it's one of those games that you could quite easily pick up and play without knowing a thing about it. The core concept is simple though. Work your way through the randomly generated dungeon, killing enemies, collecting weapons and dodging traps, all to the beat of some tasty tunes. And similarly to Necro Dancer, traps and enemies and your weapons move and shoot to these beats, with different guns popping off to different timings. Each weapon comes with a limited amount of ammo and a different fire pattern, and can be wielded in several different stances, allowing you to fire in multiple directions at once, though I feel this is more for advanced players, and for the most part I just fired straight ahead. All in all though, it's a pretty cool concept, though from what I can tell, the BPM of each track doesn't differ too much as to keep things consistent throughout a run, as the game can be set to switch automatically from one track to the next. Now, upon first starting the game, you'll have a single game mode to play, which involves tracking down and rescuing Dr. Dysco and escorting him safely to an exit portal, and following your first successful run, you'll then unlock Dysco's Revenge, which requires you to clear every room in the dungeon of enemies before finding the exit portal, but both games share almost identical gameplay mechanics. Moving from one room to the next, you'll have a little map to help you navigate the dungeons, which does help you to keep your bearings, and it's as simple as methodically blasting your way through them and trying to die as little as possible. Now, when it comes to navigating the dungeons, each room presents its own challenges, be that waves of robots who swarm towards you or fire at you from a distance, rotating or sliding blocks which you must avoid touching, or some teleporter shenanigans for you to puzzle through, and in most of them you must either kill all of the enemies or grab keys in order to open up the exit doors. Overall though, there's some decent variety to these rooms. The challenge really varies between them, and the dungeons themselves are also quite large, though you will frequently encounter the same rooms in repeat playthroughs. The game though is reasonably challenging, often requiring quick reactions from the player, with a few of the room layouts requiring some very precise movements. However, there are 3 different difficulty levels for you to tackle, which primarily affect what happens when you die. Easy mode allows you to respawn in your current room, normal kicks you out of the room and then resets it, and deaths in hard mode mean game over. But the main thing to note is that in all of the modes your score resets on death, and the main objective is to earn as high a score as possible, which means avoiding deaths, with your final score submitted to the global leaderboard, forming the primary reason for repeat playthroughs. Now I've pretty much covered everything there is to know about this one. Like I said, it's a simple but addictive concept, and it's a good little time filler game, though the dungeon size can mean runs last around 20 minutes each. One thing that I do want to praise the developers on though is their accessibility options, which beyond the multiple difficulties include several visual options for photosensitive players, as well as a single stick control scheme, which I thought was a very considerate addition. Overall, from my experience, I'd say that this is one of those easy to pick up, hard to master games, as it can be pretty difficult to keep track of your character when things get hectic and you'll likely die a few dozen times on your first run. But it's an enjoyable little play, and if you were a fan of Robotron 2084, then I highly recommend giving it a go. So visually, as with the name, this one takes heavy influence from Robotron 2084, especially when it comes to the simple sprite work and neon-infused colour palette, though it does spice things up a bit with the pulsing visuals and an inordinate amount of rainbows. The audio in the game definitely makes it though, which you'd kind of expect given its application in gameplay, but we get some classic sound effects to enjoy, and the music is pretty banging with an assortment of disco tunes and electronica, and generally just high tempo beats to blast along to. All in all, good stuff here. So the game performs well on the Switch, even when things get a bit hectic, and there were no frame rate issues from what I experienced. When it comes to gameplay issues, like I said, it can be pretty difficult to keep track of things, especially with the flashing imagery, so I recommend toning it down a little in the settings to start with. The main problem though that I encountered was actually with controlling my character and navigating it past environmental hazards using the analog stick, but I found that turning on the 8 directional limitation in the settings really helped with this. Aside from these though, I'd say the only other issue was with the dungeon size, as I often found myself having to traipse all the way back through them to take an alternative route, and the inclusion of some kind of teleportation function would have really remedied this. When all's said and done though, I enjoyed my time with the game, and I could definitely see myself dipping back in every once in a while for a couple of runs. And when it comes to my own personal rating, I'm going to be giving Rainbow Laser Disco Dungeon 4 out of 5 stars. If you're looking for some fast-paced retro action, enjoy the sights and sounds of disco, and are up for a bit of a challenge, then this may be the game for you. And so that just about wraps up this review of Rainbow Laser Disco Dungeon on the Nintendo Switch, so let me know in the comments section below if you've got that disco fever and are going to be giving this one a go. As always, drop me a like and a sub if you enjoy my content and want to see more. Thanks once again for watching, and until next time, take care and boogie on.